What did you say?
For Pete's sake! Oh, forget it.
Whippersnapper.
Danger, 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 danger.
Damn!
Danger, 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 danger.
Viewer discretion is advised. Go where no man has gone before.
In your face! It'll knock your socks off!
Broadcasting live from beautiful 88-degree downtown Cleveland, and I'm sweating my ass off. It's station WDWL TV, home of not one but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and an Oscar. And as we all know, if it's flashing, it's your host, me, Grumpy. And we're brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. Well, I got a text message. The Corvette is... Yep, disposed of. I kind of thought so. So, it's probably a couple $1,000 I saved. Because I'm sure it would have taken that to, get the thing roadworthy.
Wow!
I read a really interesting news story this morning. A couple in Colombia got arrested as they were attempting to board a plane with monkeys in their pants. They attempted to smuggle out 2 capuchins and 1 howler monkey. Unfortunately, the howler monkey was stuffed so far down in the one person's pants, it's now taking a dirt nap. Now, this is a real serious offense in Colombia. You could get like life in prison. And I'll tell you what, the Colombian police, they don't pull no punches. They immediately had a news conference at the airport, had the two people standing there in handcuffs with a little table with the dead monkey on the table. Luckily, the two capuchins were okay. So this couple could face life in a Colombian prison for attempting to smuggle out monkeys in their pants. They didn't say what gave it away. But something alerted them that something wasn't right in somebody's pants. That would be the last thing I would think of doing, is stuffing a monkey down my pants.
Wow!
But they tried. Now the capuchins are little itty bitty things. So I could see tucking a couple of them in your pants. But the howler monkey was a lot bigger. And they were just stuffed in their pants. Yeah, I was flipping through the news stories on AOL this morning, and I went, no, that can't be right. Then I read the news story. Yep. And they had the picture of the guy and the woman standing in front of the dead monkey in handcuffs in the airport with very heavy security. Oh, I've read articles all the strange ways people attempt to smuggle animals and reptiles out of a country. There was a guy, I think he had 100 baby, what we used to call painted turtles. And they were stuffed in all of his socks in his suitcase. And luckily, the guy was paying real close attention to the X-ray machine. And he said, something ain't right in that suitcase. And they asked him, what do you got in that? He said, walnuts. Your socks are stuffed with walnuts? Let's search the suitcase. It wasn't walnuts. It was little baby turtles. I read a story, oh God, it's a while back. A guy attempted to smuggle baby cobras. And he had the baby cobras stuffed in his pants. And what he had done was he had put the baby cobras in a refrigerator, and it kind of put them in a hibernation state. Comes time to go to the airport, he takes them out of the refrigerator and stuffs them in his pants. Well, he didn't stop and think that they're going to be warming up. And as he was standing in line at the airport, he suddenly collapsed. And they thought it was maybe cardiac arrest. So they start doing CPR, and one of these little baby cobras happened to crawl down his leg and out his pants leg and was kind of looking around at the crowd. And everybody was like, "Holy shit, get away from that guy." And they immediately put him in a body bag and then took him somewhere and then called a snake specialist to extract all the baby cobras out of the guy's pants. Unfortunately, he didn't get to smuggle any of them out. I was watching some more. Well, I started with food noodles. And something that got past me. And I didn't catch it until today. When they make spaghetti, they don't make spaghetti sauce. They use ketchup. I didn't spot that until today. They use ketchup. As a matter of fact, they love ketchup and mayonnaise. And I'll tell you what, they make a strange tartar sauce. I watched 3 different food shops make tartar sauce. Now they start with the egg yolks, and then they add the oil, and then when they get to the mayo consistency, they put in chopped pickles, and then they put in chopped hard-boiled egg. And they mix all this up and they call it tartar sauce. I have never had tartar sauce with chopped hard-boiled egg. I don't know how I missed the spaghetti. But 3 different food shops, ketchup. And they think that this is gourmet. But the tartar sauce was really odd. They made the mayo normal. Then they added, well, it looked like pickle relish. Okay. You got tartar sauce. Now, you add some spices and so on. And then I see them adding chopped hard-boiled egg. I was like, man, that is weird. But the thing that amazes me is on how many dishes they slather on the mayonnaise. It really amazes me how much mayonnaise that they use. There was one bowl of noodle soup, and when they put the the pork in, they were putting dollops of mayonnaise on the pork. And then, if there wasn't like a shitload of mayonnaise, people were adding it at the table. Just blows me away. Mayonnaise is a staple condiment on the table. And we're not talking like fancy mayonnaise. I don't know if it's Hellman's, but yeah. Here's your bowl of noodle soup with a couple pieces of pork on it. There's some mayonnaise. And if that ain't enough, there's bottles on the table. I'll tell you what, I am learning a lot about Japanese cooking. Although, now, this week, I'm going to make pickled eggs and beets. I have been watching how they hard boil their eggs, and I'm going to try it. Because before they drop the eggs in the boiling water, they crack the shells. They either take a push pin and put a hole in it, or like today, the guy took a spoon, whack, 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 whack. So I'm going to try it their way. Now, the last 2 times I made hard-boiled eggs, the shells fell off. I'm going to try it their way. I also ordered from an Asian warehouse a 5-pound bag of, oh God, what prefixture was it? Osaka prefixture or Hiroshima rice, or it's their rice, not American grown. I ordered a 5-pound bag, and I am going to make rice the way they do. Now, they wash their goddamn rice until the water runs clear. And several, before they turn on the rice cooker, they toss in ice cubes. And it's supposed to make fluffier rice. I'm going to try that. And last night I had my kimchi noodles. Oh, delicious. I had my bowl of kimchi noodles, and I chopped ham and green onion. Now, what else did I add? They usually add like pickled cabbage or that. I put in a couple of spoons full of chopped olives, which I could see every guy in Japan going, Jesus Christ, chopped olives. You're ruining the soup. Although I will tell you, those Japanese spoons are a bit of a bitch to get used to. I have the shirt to prove it. It was like I had a hole in my lip. Trying to drink soup out of that goofy flat ladle type spoon. I was like, in for a penny, in for a pound, you know. They do take a little getting used to. I finally ended up, I was trying to drink sideways. I finally went straight in. Although, I gotta find a video on how to use chopsticks. I have this really nice set that came with my Momofuku noodles. I would like to learn how to use them. I'll tell you what, staring at the screen, especially when they're scooping the rice up into their mouth out of the bowl, and I'm trying to, I was going to say, they make it look easy. Well, yeah. As soon as you're able to eat on your own, you have a set of chopsticks stuck in your hand. That way I would go the whole Asian route, you know. Of course, if I do learn how to use them, I'm going to buy a bib. Because the shirt I had on yesterday is a mess. I finally ended up putting a towel around my neck. I was like, God damn these spoons, what, they got holes in them or what? They are a bitch to get used to. I'm kind of tempted to order a couple of Asian bowls. I kind of like them big bowls that they use. I found some on eBay. Matter of fact, I found they're like, well, they're plastic. They're not ceramic. It was like 4 for $10. I might, for the fun of it, order them. I'm really going overboard on the Asian route here. But I'm drawing the line at putting ketchup on my spaghetti. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you what, I would love to have some of them deep fried pork cutlets. Oh my God. Those look absolutely delicious. I'll pass on the curry. And I would even be tempted to take and put a scrambled egg on top. But they eat their eggs so fucking runny. Oh, God. And then today, the one restaurant, in the soup, they just cracked a raw egg into the bowl on top of the soup. And they, stir it up. Oh. I draw the line at raw egg. And they're eating this shit for breakfast. a bowl of soup topped with a deep fried pork cutlet with a runny scrambled egg over the top and mayonnaise. I wonder where they get them squeeze bottles. I like when it does the squiggles. They squiggle one way, then they squiggle the other way. I could go for about 70% of the food. There was one, it was a food truck. And the guy only served one thing. Octopus balls. And people were going crazy over him. He had these cast iron pans that looked like egg carriers. And then he poured the batter, and then in each egg cup, he put in a big chunk of octopus. And then he put some pickled cabbage. And what else did he put? Oh, toasted panko. And then he used 2 chopsticks to keep turning them. And eventually they got them into like the size of golf balls. And people were lining up. He couldn't make them fast enough. Octopus balls. He opened like 11 o'clock. And like at 9:30, as he's opening his food truck up and getting ready, people are lining up for octopus balls. People loved them. But that was the only thing. You couldn't get a bowl of soup. The only thing you could get would be a different topping. One looked like barbecue sauce. One he sprinkled, it looked like soy sauce. And then mayonnaise. Those were the 3 different toppings you could get on your octopus balls. And people were going berserk over them. Because the cameraman was interviewing, there were a couple of young ladies that were sitting on a park bench eating them. And then, oh, delicious. We come here at least 3 times a week. Blah. They were on their lunch hour. I could see them telling their boss, I'm going to run down the corner to the food truck and get some octopus balls. Okay, bring me back half a dozen. And then I was watching Depression-era foods. And they mentioned mock apple pie. And I remember my next door neighbor's grandmother making mock apple pie. And I remember one day she made one, and I'm trying to think. Oh, she just said apple pie. Well, Sally gave it away. Sally and I were the same age, we went to school together. And I took a bite, and I was like, oh, And she said, it's not apples. I said, well, it tastes like apples. It's Ritz crackers. I said, oh, you're full of shit. Well, I said, you're pulling my leg. And then Grandma went, she pulls out the box, she goes, yep, Ritz crackers. It tasted identical to goddamn apple pie. And there was like next to no ingredients. Use the crushed Ritz crackers, lemon juice. I'm trying to think what, there were only like 4 ingredients. And it was made from Ritz crackers. Who came up with that? Who was sitting around the kitchen going, I wonder if we could make an apple pie out of Ritz crackers? But it was amazing because it tasted like apple pie. And then she showed me the recipe on the back of the box. And I had forgotten all about it until I saw the video. And had I not eaten it, I would have never believed it tasted like apple pie. But it did. It was amazing. And then I was trying to deconstruct the pie, and the crackers just kind of, when they did their thing, looked like apple slices. There wasn't anything in that slice of pie that looked like a cracker. And I was utterly shocked. And I wonder if anybody makes it today. As simple as it is, I wonder if anybody makes it today. Or if the recipe even exists on the back of a... I don't think I've ever seen it on a Ritz cracker box. Now, back in the day, yeah. I would be half tempted to try it. Because, like I say, it was crackers, lemon juice, I don't know, baking soda maybe, baking powder. It was only a couple of ingredients. The guy read them right off. I guess I'm going to have to watch the video again. I was shocked because I had probably eaten half the slice. And then Sally's like, "You're not eating apples." Well, it sure as hell tastes like apples. You're eating Ritz crackers. And I wanted to say you're full of shit, but being at the young age and with Grandma in the kitchen, and then Grandma pulled out the box and commenced to tell me that back in the day when there were no apples and you were going to a church social or a potluck dinner and you were supposed to bring something, you made a mock apple pie. And I had totally forgotten about it because I think that was the only time I ever had it. Because my grandmother always baked apple pie. And so did my aunts. I would tend to think you could probably find the recipe. You know what? Ritz should run the recipe again. And let this generation know what it was like back in the Depression era and when things were tight in the 50s and 60s. How people, the ingenuity. Another one that popped up, and I remember my aunt making it when it was planting or harvest time out at the farm. Because everybody would get together to help my uncle plant and then in the fall harvest. And she would make Brunswick stew. And I remember that stew had every vegetable on earth in it. And I remember her calling it Brunswick stew. And she mainly made it with chicken, although the more I think about it, my uncle used to hunt pheasant a lot. It could have been pheasant. She told all of the kids it was chicken. Because in the back of the 60 acres, there were pheasants. But that was another one. I was like, I remember eating that. Brunswick stew. It was good. But while I was watching the video, when they said it was usually made out of various game, I'm thinking, I can't see my aunt sacrificing chickens because the chickens laid eggs, and it was probably pheasant. But it was good. Everybody else ate it. And if it was pheasant, whatever she put in that stew pot, there was no gamey taste. Because I've had some gamey tasting, wild duck. I'll never forget. My aunt served wild duck because my uncle went duck hunting. That I passed on. But they, on the farm you ate whatever there was. And I would tend to think that Brunswick stew was pheasant. Because my aunt was pretty particular about her chickens. So I think she pulled the wool over all the kids' eyes. But it was good. I ate it. When you're hungry, you'll just about eat anything. Well, except duck. Wild duck. No. Pass on the duck. Matter of fact, I have never liked even domestic duck. Every now and then my father would make a duck. First of all, it's greasy as fuck. And it don't taste like chicken. It tastes like chicken. Tastes like a dead chicken. A greasy dead chicken. I ain't eating it. Although I did get a kick out of watching the videos of the foods of the 50s and the women in their torpedo bras. Holy shit. If you weren't careful as a sucker, you'd put an eye out. I vaguely remember them. Vaguely. Matter of fact, I think my mother had one. I think she wore it when they would go somewhere, like to dinner or some social function. But watching them women walk around, it was like, God, don't poke me in the eye. I'll go fucking blind. Who invented them? Although, if you looked at the goddamn cars of the 50s, the Cadillacs, Pontiacs, Oldsmobiles, they all had torpedoes on them. Everything was torpedoes. Torpedo bumpers, torpedo bras. Everything was a torpedo. Yeah, it was some 50s cooking show. And there were two women doing the cooking show, and I was like, holy shit. If one of them trips and falls against the wall, they're going to need a pry bar to get her off the wall. Because them suckers will go right through the goddamn drywall. I don't see them making a comeback. Never know. They say every now and then clothing kind of recycles. Although, if I remember right, was it Lady Gaga that did a live show with a frickin' torpedo bra? Although she a little strange anyway. But I could have swore it was her. I don't think it was Britney. I think it was Lady Gaga. All the kids and the parents are, cover your eyes, kids, cover your eyes. Then about 3:30 this morning, I woke up. Madonna too? Well, yeah, she was, yeah. Her too? Jesus. I guess they were making a comeback. Although I don't remember seeing any kids, any teenage girls running down the street in one, but I ended up watching a documentary on Ed Sullivan. And boy, what a prick he was. Now, he had a very kind side, like when he brought the Beatles over. Matter of fact, they had some interviews where the Beatles said he was just wonderful. But if you pissed him off, he could ruin a career. And they said that was one thing you never wanted to do, was get on Ed Sullivan's bad side. There were 2 or 3. There was one band. Oh God, I can't remember. Oh, what the hell? They sang Light My Fire. I just drew a blank. And I watched it at 3 o'clock this morning. Well, Ed Sullivan asked them to change 2 or 3 words in Light My Fire. And they agreed. And then, when it came airtime, they sang it the way it was written. And after their performance, while the next performance was performing, I guess Sullivan went back in the dressing room and literally ripped them a new asshole. And he said, I've got you signed for 4 more shows. Forget it. You're done. And when Ed Sullivan blacklisted somebody, the word traveled through the industry and your career went in the sewer because nobody else would sign you. But before the performance, in rehearsal, they agreed to change 2 or 3 words because it was live TV. And Sullivan played to a huge audience. They literally said, when Sullivan had the Beatles, 80% of the viewing population at that time tuned in to watch the Beatles. And they said nobody had done that since. They said more people tuned in to watch Ed Sullivan and the Beatles than tuned in to watch the first moon landing. And Sullivan held that record until he retired. Because they were saying, after Sullivan ended, because like I say, the Doors were supposed to be on 4 more times. He had them scheduled like every 3 weeks. When he killed their performance, they immediately, like they were booked on like The Tonight Show and cancel. And the Doors had a rough going for a while. Because even radio stations refused to play their music because they had heard they pissed off Sullivan. But on the other hand, he could be the nicest guy on earth. He had sponsors that told him, no black people on your program. And Sullivan said, I'll have whoever I want on my program. Then the sponsors said, don't stand that close, don't shake hands, don't put your arms around. And Sullivan said, you don't like it? don't sponsor me. Because back in the day, well, you know how history was. Sullivan didn't see color. Sullivan saw talent. And Sullivan was like Carson. If you were on Carson, your career took off. I remember watching an interview with Jim Carrey, or Drew Carey. And it was the first time Drew Carey had been on Carson. And while Drew was doing his performance, the camera kept cutting away to Johnny, who was about ready to fall off his chair laughing. And when Drew got done, Carson waved him over. And they showed Drew going, "Me?" And Carson was like, and Drew Carey said, overnight, he became a sensation, and his career took off. And it was all due to Carson. Well, it was the same way with Ed Sullivan. If Ed Sullivan had you on his program, like when he had the Supremes, their career took off. But his sponsors literally told him, don't touch them. Don't shake hands. Don't put your arms around them. Stand back away from them. And he told the sponsors, you don't like it, pull your sponsorship. He said, I'm promoting talent. And that was, in the heart of when there were still segregated areas, Sullivan saw talent. Matter of fact, that interview with Drew Carey, it was surprising because when he was talking about when Carson called him over, Drew started to actually tear up during the interview because he said, the following day, I had more bookings than I could handle. Everybody wanted me. Because there were a lot of times people would be on Carson and they didn't get to come and sit down. Now, it still was a boost for their career. But when Carson called you over to sit at the desk, it was like God anointing you. And Drew Carey said he could not believe the next morning his agent couldn't field the phone calls for people that wanted him to perform. And overnight, he said, the world knew me. And it was the same thing with Sullivan. Because when Sullivan had the Beatles, America didn't know who the fuck they were. As a matter of fact, his producer said he was nuts. He said, you're going to bring these 4 English kids over here that nobody knows who they are? Yep. And the next morning, the whole United States knew who the Beatles were. And the way Sullivan discovered them, he was on vacation and he landed at Heathrow Airport. And I guess the Beatles had landed at Heathrow Airport. And Sullivan said, what is all that screaming going on? And whoever he asked went, oh, it's the Beatles. And Sullivan said, who's the Beatles? And the guy said, it's the latest, greatest singing group here in England. And the next morning, Sullivan booked them. And Sullivan negotiated passports and the whole 9 yards and travel arrangements and hotels. He said, if they're like that over here, they're going to be like that over in America. And when they were performing, they literally had several employees with signs telling the girls not to scream as loud because it would screw up the vocals and all the audio of the Beatles trying to perform. He said there were literally people with big cue cards. Don't scream loud. Don't scream loud. But Sullivan, he could make you, well, like Carson, he could make you or break you. Hang on a minute. There's a downpour going on and I got the kitchen windows open. Jesus Christ, the kitchen will be soaked. It wasn't supposed to rain tonight. Jesus. Luckily the kitchen wasn't all wet. The window by the driveway, when it rains, the rain will come right in the kitchen. I had to close. The forecast said rain Saturday. This is Tuesday. Where did this come from? Cleveland. Kathy knows well. 1 minute the sun's shining, the next minute a torrential downpour. Oh, I gotta show you the gag item I bought. $4 on Temu. It plugs into the Type-C port on the cell phone. And when the phone rings, you hit this button right here next to the red light. It answers, and you have a volume control up or down, and it works like crazy. I made a couple of phone calls today. It's hilarious. I'm gonna keep it hooked to my cell phone, and I'm kind of hoping, like, if I'm shopping at Mark's, maybe standing at Annie's register, the phone rings, I'll pull it out of my shirt. Hello. It was only $4. I couldn't pass the fucking thing up. Coil cord and all. Leave it to me. Okay, it was in plastic. Where'd the plastic go? Where'd the plastic sleeve go? Oh, come on. I took it out of the plastic sleeve. Where'd the plastic sleeve disappear to? Now, come on. You're losing it, Grumpy. It was in my lap. But being see-through, it blended right in. I figured, for $4, even if it didn't work, I really didn't lose much. But it's amazing. It's like using a regular telephone. The sound is crisp and clear. I was shocked. I figured it would be all staticky and fuzzy, and nope. And you can plug it into your cell phone, you can plug it into your laptop, you can plug it into your computer. $4. I'm going to have some fun with it. Although I usually don't answer phone calls, but to pull that out, be walking through a store talking, people will be like, "The hell?" Good old Temu. Oh. I hate ant season. I no sooner got rid of the fucking ants in the kitchen. Oh, did I tell that story? about the ants in the kitchen? I don't know if I told it or not. Well, if I did, I'm going to tell it again. This is ant season in Cleveland. We go through this shit every year. Now, last year I lucked out. The year before... Now, I have not seen any ants in the kitchen. Although, now that my kid isn't here, the kitchen doesn't look like Crumb Central. So, not thinking and not seeing any ants whatsoever, I kind of got a little laxed. I go to Mark's the other day, and the guy from the bakery shop was putting out cartons of cinnamon crumb cupcakes. And I've had these before, and they're outstanding. So I buy a 4-pack. They're huge, though. I mean, so I had one the other morning with my coffee. And I closed up the container. Ruh-roh. Hang on. I just got the warning chime. Low battery on the tablet. Come on, let me plug in the charger. Okay, charge. Quit making noise. Just charge. So, I have a muffin. I close the container. And I put it on the kitchen table. Not something I haven't done before. I come out into the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. And Shiloh is staring at the muffin container. And I'm like, they're muffins. You can't have any. And I go to pick the container up, and there are 9,000 ants in the container, on the muffins, on the table. I was like, Jesus Christ, where did they come from? This is in the span of an hour. There were fucking ants everywhere. I get a bag out. I pitch the muffins. I get out my awesome kitchen cleaner spray. I spray the whole fucking table down, soak the ants, clean it up, get the old Raid, and spray the whole kitchen. Since spraying, I haven't seen any ants in the kitchen. Now, believe me, I sprayed. I took pots and pans out of the cupboards, sprayed the inside of the cupboards, I don't know. 2 years ago, I went through this shit. So, you'll love this one, Kathy. You know, I have my drink cup on the end table next to the bed because I have dry mouth during the night. And I got my cherry RC in the drink cup, setting on the side table next to the bed. I get thirsty and I grab the drink cup. And all of a sudden, I have a strange feeling on my hand. And I turned the light on, and there were 3,000 ants on my drink cup, on my side table. 3:30 in the morning, I am battling ants. Spray the fuck out of the bedroom. Luckily, I didn't take a drink because they were inside the fucking cup. In the straw, I have one here. I'll show you. I have metal straws. When I went out in the kitchen and ran it under hot water, about 200 ants came out of the straw. Can you imagine if I would have... So, I have the other insulated mug that has the locked top. I usually use that one, but I used the one with the straw last night. How did the ants get from the kitchen to the bedroom? I couldn't believe it. And had they not crawled all over my hand, I would have taken a big drag of that pop. But I grabbed the cup and I'm watching TV, and I get this tingling. And I reach up and I turned on the lamp and went, holy yutcha fuck! Ants! They were all over the top of the goddamn end table, the nightstand. How do they... What... Some kind of radar... pop. RC... So, 3:30, I'm cleaning and spraying, and then I couldn't get back to sleep because it's a mental thing. I'm laying in bed, all of a sudden, oh, there's ants on my leg. Lift the sheet, put the light up. There were no ants in the bed. I have an oscillating fan. Every time the oscillating fan would blow and hit one of the hairs on my arm or leg, it felt like an ant crawling on me. I couldn't get any fucking sleep. But yeah, I do eat in the bedroom. But it's not like I'm a pig. It's not like there's 10,000 crumbs and food wrappers. No, I have a little tray table like last night. I eat my ramen. I'm watching TV. When I get done, I take the bowl out, wash it, fold the tray table up. How did they know there was a cup of RC on my nightstand? And where did they come from? I didn't have the bedroom window open. I just had I got one of them tower fans. I love it. It's like a little ant flying saucer, you know. Oh, look. RC Cola. Signal goes out. But when, in the span of an hour, I could not fucking believe how many ants were inside that container of muffins. And then when I picked it up, there were like 1,000 of them on the kitchen table. So out come the vacuum cleaner, broom, dustpan, raid. So every time I go in the kitchen, I'm lifting this, go over by the bread box. No, okay, I'm safe. But that cup last night, I was in shock. I'm like, this is the bedroom. This ain't the kitchen. It's not like I left a trail of breadcrumbs from the kitchen into the bedroom. All I had was a bowl of soup. But unfortunately, once it's ant season, they're going to be everywhere. Oh, it's amazing. It is amazing how the ingenuity that they have. Yeah, I've had that happen in a jar of jelly. Because I didn't have the lid on tight. I just, put it on, turn it. And they open the jar of jelly, and there's fucking 9,000 ants in the jar. And 2 years ago, I had a loaf of rye bread in the pantry. They chewed through the fucking plastic bag. I picked up the loaf of bread, and the rye bread, the sesame seeds were crawling. And I'm like, how did you fuckers get in here? And they eat through the plastic, and then they just follow me. I made a hole. I got lucky last year. I didn't have any 2 years ago, yes. This year, here we go again. But I sprayed the fuck out of the kitchen. Every cupboard, I took pots, pans, you name it. I pulled the drawers out, sprayed in the back, put the drawers back in. Goddamn kitchen stunk from Raid. It still does. So now they moved to the bedroom. Now the bedroom stinks from Raid. But we go through it. And it's obvious other parts of the country go through it too. Since you're battling them too. How bad are yours? You have yours like I have mine? I couldn't believe in the span of an hour. It went from 0 ants to 9,000. It's like, where do they come from? So what I'm going to have to do is basically spray the threshold around the doors, outside, around the windows, inside. I mean, oh, you got them like I did. I mean, I looked at those muffins, and there had to be 1,000 in the muffin container. When I picked it up, there had to be another 1,000 on the kitchen table. No wonder Shiloh was having a ball. Oh, look, the cinnamon crunches are crawling. I was like, God, and then, like I say, in the bedroom. How did they know I had, what is their ultra-sensitive sniffing that they, oh, I smell RC Cola. Because there was nothing on the nightstand. Well, I got my pill bottles and the remote for the TV and my cell phone and that glass of, well, it's that metal insulated mug, but it's got the straw instead of the flip spout. Now tonight I will be using the flip spout. And then when I flip the spout open, I'll be with a flashlight going, oh, there better not be anything in there. I'm even nervous about using that. But I need to have a drink. Because the dry mouth kills me. Of all places, the bedroom. I've never had them there before. I always have them in the kitchen. was a shock. And like I say, thank God I felt something. Because there were like 200 of them inside that straw. A little meat with my RC. Oh, if I would have taken a drink and then realized I got a mouthful of ants, oh, I'd have puked my toenails up. And to think, back in the 70s, I remember there was a gourmet candy shop in downtown Cleveland. And they had chocolate-covered ants as one of their specialties. And people were buying them. I remember a news story. I can't remember the fancy French name for the candy shop. Our specialty, chocolate-covered ants in dark chocolate, milk chocolate, or white chocolate. I'll take some ants of each chocolate, please. They not only had chocolate-covered ants, they had like chocolate-covered crickets, chocolate-covered grasshoppers. And people were buying this shit. I don't think the place is in business anymore. But yeah, it was on the news. I remember the news reporter, you know, the guy was like, you want to try some? He goes, no thank you. Yeah, he was holding up a chocolate-covered grasshopper. Oh, people go for these. Yeah, I'm going to go, all right, the other direction. It was back in the mid to late 70s. Aubon something. Aubon something. I can't remember the third word. Oh, God, one day I was watching Vietnamese food. And they eat deep-fried crickets. It showed the woman going to the market. She got a big plastic bag full of crickets. And then they had the wok right at the kitchen dinner table. And she'd reach in and grab a handful of crickets and throw them in the wok and stir them. Dish them out real quick. Here, you want some? And everybody's with the chopsticks. Mmm. Boo. Yeah. Fried crickets. Because the cricket woman only come like once a week. She made a special trip to the market to see the cricket woman. And it showed her, she had a plastic bag, must have had 3,000 crickets in it. And then they got loose. And it showed the guy that was filming, the crickets were crawling up the wall, you know. They were hopping out of the skillet. Whoa, whoa. But I remember this candy shop. I mean, they had regular chocolates, but then the delicacy. Chocolate covered ants, grasshoppers, crickets, beetles. And idiot people were buying it. Matter of fact, there was one teenage girl. Oh, you can't even taste the ants. Tastes like chocolate. Yeah, but that chocolate's got ants in it. I ain't eating nothing that has ants in it. Bad enough I almost had a straw full. Oh, God. I was so close to taking a drink. I'd have still been puking. Had I drank that with those ants in it, I would still be in there. I would think that I went through chemo again. I see you. I see you. Sad eyes. Pink nose. You want some ants? No? You'd rather have delectables? I could probably find ant delectables. Oh, it was hilarious watching Shiloh. The head was going. And I'm like, what are you staring at my muffins for? Then I looked at the container and I went, oh, all the cinnamon crumblies are moving. I ate one muffin. $5 for 4 muffins. I ate one and had to throw the other 3 out. Oh, God, talk about pissing me off, wasting food. Evidently, it was my nutritionist telling me, ants, those muffins aren't good for him. Go take care of them. Because you can't just shake them out, you know. Oh, God. To throw them away just really pissed me off. I'll tell you what, that pissed me off more than the ants. Because I hate wasting food. Any kind of food. Luckily, they didn't get into anything else in the kitchen. Because, I went through the pantry, I checked every goddamn bag, you name it. Checked my Momofuku noodles. Oh, God.
That's it, I'm through.
All right, people. I gotta feed the walking belly here. Job of the gut. And figure out how I'm going to have a cold drink in the bedroom without having 90,000 ants again. We know where, right here, WDWL TV, home of not 1 but 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And an Oscar. All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Kathy, I hope you battle your ant problem. Oh, God. All right, have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we'll see you again tomorrow night. And with that, take care, everyone.